What if I told you that Lewis Hamilton's car was modified without him or his team knowing, just before a decisive grand prize? What if I confirmed that who discovered this was Ferrari's own chief? The truth behind SF25 could change everything for Hamilton and Ferrari this 2025 season. What happened in Ferrari's garages before the Netherlands Grand Prix was more than a simple technical error. It was a high-impact revelation with implications that could change the trajectory of the whole season. Frédéric Vasseur, head of the Ferrari team, discovered a serious anomaly in Lewis Hamilton's car that at first seemed inexplicable. The SF25, a car known for its extreme sensitivity to the height and balance configuration, showed a totally erratic behavior on the track during the FP3, and it was no accident. The telemetric analysis held between the last session of Friday and the FP3 on Saturday revealed drastic changes in key parameters. It was not a track problem, nor tires, nor piloting errors. It was the car. Something in him had been altered precisely, but without notice or justification. And even more alarming, without knowledge of Hamilton or his career engineer Riccardo Adami. The rear filming height, which Hamilton had tightly adjusted throughout the weekend to find an optimal point between stability and traction, had been high. This modification displaced the center of gravity of the car forward, generating unstable behavior in the back. The car ceased to be predictable, especially in braking areas where the rear grip is crucial. But that was not all. It was also discovered that the preload of the differential was modified to deliver torque more aggressively. This caused that in the most critical phase of entry into curve, just when the pilot releases the brake and begins to rotate, the power delivery was abrupt, breaking traction and causing loss of control. It is a type of behavior that, for a pilot like Hamilton that bases much of his style on the softness and precision of the curve passage, is a technical sabotage disguised as error. Vasseur, with decades of technical experience behind him, immediately understood that these modifications were not the work of chance. And more importantly, they did not come from the Hamilton garage team. These alterations came from the main performance group of Ferrari, an area with superior hierarchy, which makes centralized decisions from Maranello. It is not common for them to intervene directly into the individual tuning of a car, unless there is a very specific strategic directive. But in this case there was none. No one in the direct environment of Hamilton was informed or consulted. That disconnection between the performance group and the track team is not only an organizational failure, it is an alarm signal for any professional Formula One. This leads to a critical point. If these alterations were not communicated, then were they deliberate? Are we facing an internal sabotage within Ferrari? Is there an undeclared power struggle between those responsible for Maranello and track engineers? Or simply someone tried to experiment with new configurations without taking into account the consequences? Any of these possibilities is dangerous, because the result was evident. Hamilton lost confidence in the car, the performance fell into chopped, and the team faced an ethical and technical dilemma in the final stretch towards Zandvoort. Lewis Hamilton is not any pilot. It is a 7-time world champion, a figure that represents both on and off the track. His arrival to Ferrari was not a simple contractual movement. It was an event of high media, technical, and political impact. In theory, Ferrari had to build around him a structure of trust, adaptation, and performance. But with this episode, what is transmitted is exactly the opposite. Disorder, lack of communication, and the most serious, an environment where not even the fundamental adjustments of the car are under direct control of the track team. For Hamilton, it means having to deal with not only with a technically unstable car, but also with a system that does not offer basic guarantees. The relationship between a pilot and his team is one of the most delicate and crucial links of Formula One. Frédéric Vasseur, meanwhile, is in a critical position. His leadership had partially stabilized the strategic chaos that affected Ferrari for years. But this case calls into question his authority. If the central performance group can alter the parameters of the Hamilton car without the team leader knowing or authorizing it, then the chain of command is broken. In a team like Ferrari, where media pressure is constant and internal policy is as intense as the battle on the track, these types of cracks can become irreversible fractures. Finally, this situation also has implications outside. The rest of the paddock is watching. The rival teams, the FIA, the international press, all follow each Ferrari movement, especially with Hamilton in their ranks. An internal crisis not only compromises sports results, but also the public perception of the team. And in a sport as media as Formula One, perception can quickly become. Therefore, the discovery of these unauthorized technical alterations should not be interpreted as an isolated incident. It is a greater alert on the structural state of Ferrari. A mirror that reflects not only its technical weaknesses, but also its human, political, and cultural tensions. And if the address does not act quickly, forcefulness, and transparency, the consequences can be as deep as silent. Because in Formula One, sometimes an accident is needed on the track for a project to crash. Just lose internal cohesion. The Netherlands Grand Prix appears on the calendar as a critical date, but for Ferrari and especially for Lewis Hamilton, it is much more than a simple career. It is the fire test of a structure that begins to show worrying signs of operational decomposition. After the discovery of unauthorized alterations in the SF25, the Italian team cannot afford to continue improvising. The whole paddock is observing. The decisions taken in the coming weeks can define not only the destiny of this season, but the complete course of the Ferrari-Hamilton project. Frédéric Vasseur has confirmed that an internal investigation began to identify those responsible for the technical intervention in Hamilton's car. But that process, if it is not managed with transparency, can become a source of more suspicions. It is not enough to identify errors. The real challenge is to restore confidence, both within the team and outside. The relationship between pilot and technical team must be rebuilt from the base, and that implies making difficult decisions. Will the Central Performance Group restructure? Will strict limits be imposed on technical autonomy from Maranello? Or will Hamilton's environment opt for his own personnel, something that already happened in his final stage in Mercedes? In addition, the competitive context does not expect. The fight for the championship is more tight than ever. McLaren dominates in the technical front with a solid and reliable car. Red Bull has recovered after a hesitant start, and Mercedes advances with a consistent George Russell and a Kimi Antonelli that begins to consolidate. In this scenario, Ferrari cannot afford internal distractions. Each race that loses due to organizational problems is an opportunity they give to their rivals. And the most worrying thing is that, until now, strategic decisions have oscillated between the conservative and the reactive. If Ferrari does not take the initiative, it will be left behind, not due to lack of talent but for lack of control. As for Hamilton, his position also enters a delicate stage. He arrived in Ferrari to close his career with a big risky bet, but with the potential to leave a historical footprint. I knew it was not going to be easy, but what it is facing goes beyond sports. Now he must decide whether he becomes the pilot who drives a deep change in Ferrari's operational culture, or if he replicates and lets internal policy consume his last stage in Formula One. His experience, influence, and prestige give him a unique platform, but also expose it. And as has been seen before, when Hamilton perceives that the environment does not support him, his performance and motivation can resent. There is also the possibility that this case has broader regulatory implications. If it is discovered that the alterations in the SF25 violated protocols established by the FIA in terms of control of technical parameters, Ferrari could face formal sanctions or warnings. In a championship where every detail counts, even an official touch of attention can destabilize a team that already dealt with internal tensions. Finally, this episode could detonate a domino effect on the 2026 car planning. Ferrari, like all teams, is already working on the design for the new technical regulation that comes into force that year. But if the current managers do not demonstrate control and cohesion in 2025, it is very possible that personnel and technical changes occur before the new project takes shape. In that sense, what happens in Zandvoort and in the immediate races not only affects the present, it also defines the future architecture of the team. Ferrari is at a crossroads. You can use this crisis as a catalyst for transformation, or you can repeat the errors of the past and cling to a structure that clearly needs urgent reforms. And Hamilton, the great signing that should return the glory to Maranello, is also at a turning point, to demonstrate that he can lead from the most difficult trench of modern F1, or give in to a system that, at least for now, has failed to protect him. The ball is on Ferrari's roof. And time, as always in this sport, runs faster than anyone. This case cannot be seen in isolation. We must ask ourselves if Ferrari is truly prepared to compete for a championship with a stable, consistent, and aligned project in all its areas. And even more, if Hamilton, with all its history, can exercise its leadership within an organization that still seems trapped between the expectations of the past and the challenges of the present. This is where you, as a passionate spectator, as a demanding fan and connoisseur of Formula One, you can enter the conversation. Do you think this was a simple technical uncoordination, or are we facing a disguised sabotage? Do you trust that Ferrari can reorganize in time to protect Hamilton and return a competitive car? Or do you think this will be another season in which promises are short in front of reality? I invite you to share your opinion in the comments. What is happening within Ferrari may be the beginning of a transformation or confirmation of a silent fall.